Hi, everybody. Frank Spicer, co-founder and CEO of Metafide. We're here with my co-host from today's Spaces. You have Keyboard Yeti, Chief Business Development Officer and co-founder Matt Cross, and co-founder Frank Billella joins us as a special guest today. We took a trip down memory lane and talked about how we got everybody here to the eventual, momentum that we have here at Metafide and the path that it took us through and some of the things that we discovered along the way. It's a really good space because we got to look back and see the things that we initially tried in order to do what we could to protect people from making, missteps or bad moves in the market. We talked about the rating system we initially rolled out. We talked about the initial success that we got at Consensus back in 2022, I think, and yeah, it's been a great run. So thanks for joining us for this one, Frank.
Of course, thanks for having me. It was a good space. What really took me back was telling the story about what I was referring to, Matt, earlier was the most Project X like party that we've ever been to. And that was out in Consensus when we initially started shopping our ratings product around, and we had a lot of interest from not only retail investors but institutional investors about some of the components that made up our rating system that was able to predict numerous things. One, like the FTT crash, the depegging of USDC a couple hours in advance. And it was just a funny sequence of events that not only was Consensus 2022 the initial place where we found product market fit, but we also experienced a couple other interesting events that happened outside of the conference floor. So it was a really good space to talk about and reflect on how we got to where we are today and some of the highlights over that process.
Yeah, and you're specifically talking about a house party we went to outside of Austin, where it's the first time I've been at a party that's been raided by the police in a long time. So it was pretty interesting to see that. But actually, during the trip, we realized that there's other people in the Web3 space that were trying to do the right thing, that were trying to link up with good people doing the right things for the right reasons. And this was in the middle of the coldest crypto winter ever, probably. We found our roots in that, made some really good, connections and relationships that sort of brought us to where we are today. One of the most interesting things was Matt will probably recall. We connected with a friend of ours, Ed McCormick from D Chain Capital, who's an early believer in what we're doing, and wound up seeing the value in this and sort of helped nudge us to the point of being able to make tools for traders in the market that will help get them feedback and get signal that you couldn't get from anywhere else. Uh, Matt, you want to talk a little bit about what that was like going from a ratings product to where we are now, where essentially we have a series of ways for people to give us signal about the direction and value and worth of an asset, but it doesn't feel like a chore.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I think, what we originally had was a great product. It looked at all the assets in the space, gave them a clear rating. It looked at, volume, liquidity, token distribution. So you could see the fairness of it. You could also see some of the vulnerabilities in it. But what it did was it told everyone not to buy crypto, which wasn't a growth business for us. We, had very harsh ratings on these assets because a lot of them weren't good at the time. But in that discovery of utilizing the product, we realized we need to protect users against downside risk. And we need to figure out a way to, gather stable rewards from utilizing these tokens. And so what we eventually evolved into is a way to capture signal from the market that didn't show up in any order book, which we then could use to succeed and share that success with the rest of our community and actually create something that's, profitable and stable for all the holders that are in FIDE. And now here we are today taking, some of these, early models and utilizing them to place them in games where people then could compete against AI to improve these models in a fun way when now they're giving up alpha. There's also risk to qualify that alpha. And then we could all use this to trade off of it and have successful outcomes together.
Yeah, and we've taken a lot of care to make it work in a way that doesn't feel like there's not a lot of heavy lifting to get it done. Like you should be able to understand the concept really quickly. You should be able to communicate it to someone else and say, hey, I'm involved in this. You should be involved. And maybe the most important thing, it shouldn't require all this inside knowledge to just get set up and going, like has been a problem in the Web3 space. And I think maybe you could see it starting to come to fruition now because the Discord is growing, the X followers are growing, it's getting shared organically to people who see the value in it. And yet, you're the one on the community side that sees this coming in. New users seem really well educated, but they don't seem like people who have been in crypto for a long, long time. They seem like they're sort of just understanding it for the value that it is and the fact that, like, hey, this could make my life better. I want to get involved with it. Is that right?
Yeah, I reckon that's definitely true. I mean, we've had people that didn't even know what an EVM address is, so I reckon, yeah, there are definitely some Web 2 people in there. Yeah.
Which, by the way, they're the people we want. We don't
Yeah.
want you to have to understand the difference between an EVM chain and Solana, and what an L1 versus an L2 is. We just want the kind of people who are like, I have some good ideas. I have some things I want to try. I want to be involved with this. Help me do that. We got to stop as an industry being clicky and being exclusive. Like, we have to be open to this if we're going to make this work for everybody, right? And I think that's the point where we talked about on the space, and something that's worth mentioning here. We want to help people and we want to have fun making this better, right? Like, so we don't take ourselves so super seriously. We can't joke around at work and, crack jokes on one another. And the way we develop products is fun. I know that Frank has been with us since the beginning. That's never really gone away. Like, we've always been really serious about getting good stuff done, but I don't think we've ever been the kind of company that's rigid and, like, just sour all the time. I think, like, in order to make this work, you have to like doing it, right?
Yeah, Frank, one thing I would add there is reflecting on not only the space, but how far we've come, and a common undertone that I've personally noticed taking a step back and reflecting on the journey over the past several years is one thing that I think we've really nailed is the ability to simplify not only user experiences, but as you like to refer to, mimetic information sharing. So we not only did that with our initial product, the ratings product, but now as we look into Surge and eventually to Range, we've done that the entire time. And I think that has brought us a ton of great traction, has attracted a lot of community members, and will continue to propel us to the next stage.
Yeah, that's a great point. We look at what's working in the community, we see how they're speaking, and memes are pretty common. And you look at it, you're like, why does that work? Well, it's a way to package a concept that's built over a series of interactions into a pretty compact space that sort of carries some knowledge with it, but it isn't inaccessible that you can't get involved. And when you look at the concept of meme transfers through communities, that works for a reason. And you shouldn't just discard it and be like, oh, that's just a bunch of immature nonsense. No, there's actually a field of study called semiotics. And if you're programming AI and linguistics and stuff like that, it was founded by a philosopher named Charles Sanders Peirce. My previous company, Social Flow, the first AI classification system that we used, I named it Sanders after Charles Sanders Peirce. But the concept of memes apply to communities carrying knowledge that educates people in iterative chunks, like, that's really important. And we've taken a lot of care to make that something that we work into what we're doing here through the whole stack of product development, communication, education, and transference to bring us new people in. And I think when we look back at this space, when somebody's going through this a couple of years from now, they'll say, oh, these guys told us how to do it, right? Like, it's just pay attention to your users and what makes sense to them, and then try to do things that make sense to them, right? So I think, I really appreciate you being involved for the ride and sort of how we've gotten to where we are now. But, really great space. Thank everybody who's been. We're about to put the pedal down and get this out, so everybody can watch what's about to happen. But you're going to see it all click in the next month or two. Um, I want to thank everybody. We're going to end this here. Follow us on Discord, discord.gg/Fide-token. Follow us on YouTube at Metafide. And find us on X at Fide_AI. And we look forward to seeing everybody on the next one. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'm out.
Metafide is the only AI-powered Bitcoin prediction game where traders compete in real time to forecast BTC's price in a fast 1 to 5 minute round. Test your skills against global players. Take on 1x risk with the ability to win multiplied payouts and prize pots. The more accurate and early, the better the outcome. Pre-register now for early access to generational wealth.